So this is the first time all year that I've plugged in the truck. I wonder what the difference will be. I know the warm-up time on the 23 has been so long in the previous days this year. Not plugging in the truck, you start it up and I can drive this thing for 15 minutes and it's just taking some time to get to operating temperature, which is the controversy. Is like people will say, why do you plug in your truck? It's going to start. And that's true. Yes, the truck will start if you don't plug it in, for the most part. I mean, in our temperatures, we're at 30 degrees lately. We'll get down to like 15. If we get to 10 degrees, it's pretty cold Fahrenheit. So I plugged it in. Is there any? Yeah, the whole motor is warm to the touch. Just from me plugging that in. I haven't started the engine, but it's warm to the touch. Very interesting. Like, even this is just a EGR tube, I think. It's not cold. It is not cold. Yeah, this is warm. This is quite warm right here. Very warm. Wish I had like a fancy temperature gauge or something, but we get up in here a little further. Oh, that's very, very impressive that this engine is, in effect, not cold. I mean, it's just warm. Very interesting. So when I start this up, I should have heat right away. I should be a lot more efficient. It's just interesting how long it takes. Let's go ahead and start the truck and see where the temperature is at. All right, let's start this up and see what we got. So fires right up, and there's our gauges right there, and it's saying that our coolant is 42 degrees. That's pretty cold. I actually thought it'd be warmer than that. But no, that's our temperature. It's 42 degrees. Now, in the past, when I've done this, I'm looking at the wrong gauge. That's our transmission. Our coolant is 91. So, and now that it's circulating, the coolant temperature is actually dropping because it is, moving coolant a little bit from the radiator, although the thermostat is probably closed up. It's probably only pulling a little bit of coolant out of the radiator. But yeah, we're starting off at 90 degrees on our coolant. And yeah, that's a good place to start, considering we be starting. Oh, also too, the difference in the way it's running. It's still a little bit cold. You can't stump on it just yet, but this is interesting. If you were to run this engine idle, it would probably be pretty cold. Even at these temperatures, it will probably be at like 100 degrees. It could drop, like, as if it just idles in cold weather, the temperature just goes down. The coolant temperature just drops because these diesels don't make enough heat at idle. So I'm curious if this heater can keep the engine at 100 degrees. What would be the implications of running this heater at idle? Could that help keep the temperatures up and keep the engine happier? Because that does cause a lot of damage to these diesels when they're running, and they're running idling and they're cold. It wears the cylinders out faster, it wears the rings out faster, and your engine will ultimately be tired sooner. It's not good for it to idle, especially when it's cold. So I don't know. This is not hot enough though. 111 degrees. It's not hot enough to even be in a happy place. It still needs to be, another 100 degrees more. But I think once it hits around 200, it's going to be like right there in the middle. So it's kind of deceiving, just the fact that it's like a 115 and it's still like right there. They want you to be at probably 195 or something, I would think. If you were to hit 212, your fans are going to kick on. Your cooling fans are going to kick on. Bring it back down to like 195-ish. So I am very impressed by this block heater. As far as how much it raises the electric bill and stuff at the house, not a whole lot. I do think they tell you, well, okay, I say not a whole lot, to be honest. Not enough. The electricity is not increased enough for me to care, or for me to like get the bill and wonder what the heck's been going on. Oh my God, ever since I plugged in my truck, my bill, it's not something that's even noticeable to me. So, my opinion, relatively cheap just to plug it in. Nothing really. Maybe it raises it $30 or something. I don't know. It's not, whatever it is, it's not that big a deal. So, more fuel efficient right off the bat. This drive that I usually take to work takes me 10-15 minutes, and I get to work. By the time I get to work, the vehicle's not warm. So I'm really short tripping, really cold. So this does help out with the short trips that we inadvertently take with our vehicle. For, a diesel truck, I really shouldn't even have a diesel truck because my trips are too short. I should have like little gasoline powered Ford Focus or something just to get my body to the shop. But nonetheless, it does help me to have this truck because I got the salt spreader on it and stuff. And let's hit that camera and show that feature. So there you go, salt spreader. A lot of times I wake up early and there's an emergency salt event and I gotta go spread some salt. And, so I guess I could justify it in that sense a little bit, Instead of me having, it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to have a dedicated work truck and, a work Super Duty truck, whatever, that's not, fancy loaded or whatever. And I just go and have to go to the shop and hook and get into that vehicle and then go and do whatever I need to do with the work vehicle. So it's not a bad move either. I just daily drive this with the equipment on it, and it's also ready as well. So I don't know. Maybe I try it the other way too. Maybe get like a 150 and get a dump truck or something with a bigger spreader or whatever in it, or another dually or something. Or I think it's a little bit ridiculous to have this level of a truck loaded and stuff just sitting there. But if I had a an XL XL 350 or XL whatever, even an XL 450, and that was just inside the shop loaded with salt, and the salt's already warm because this is just in the spreader and it's just loaded, that would be something interesting. Check this out though, no one's behind me. I'm gonna spread a little salt for the fallen soldiers. Let's turn our spinner on. What happens if you spread salt going down the freeway? I don't know. Let's see. Haha. The whole freaking freeway gets it. Look at that. Ha ha ha. You can just dump it on the freeway. Better turn that off for somebody to get mad. You're salting the freeway. I got salt on my car. But no, that's kind of cool. It's salt to know. I'm going so fast that it's just throwing, like if you're going fast and salting, it throws it further. So you could put like 2-3 tons of salt in this thing and just turn it on low. I wonder how far you get. You get pretty far because it's going if at this speed, if I'm in this lane, because I'm going so fast, it throws it all the way across the road. And at a low speed, I could probably salt for a good while. I don't know. I usually salt in the highest speed because we're working with a salt dog. So you can just turn it on at the highest. That's probably going to be like I don't know, 15 minutes with this salt spreader because it don't have the biggest feet. Some other salt spreaders could probably empty everything out in like 5 minutes, but not the case with the Salt Dog, I don't think. So I wonder, 15 minutes at 65 miles an hour. But at the same time, if it's wet and snowy, the salt won't bounce across the whole road. It'll just be behind you. So went a little bit of field talking about that, but look at the temperature as we get closer to our destination. We're there. We're at 176. That's a good place. 176. Heat's bumping in the truck. Normally by now, without plugging in, I'd be at 76. I would be a whole 100 degrees less. So I'd still be cold and I'd be highway driving cold. So plugging in's a good move. Like if I go to the shop and I park outside, I technically, should plug in while I'm sitting outside so it can just be warm. If it's 180, that residual heat is in the motor and it's just there. It's just hanging out there. So what I could also do, what I've always wanted is an inverter in the truck with a battery bank somewhere. I don't know if there's somehow I could affix a battery bank to the underside of the truck. I affix a battery bank that has enough reserve capacity to give me a certain amount of hours of time to run the engine block heater. Say I don't know, 12 hours of reserve capacity. That's impossible to run that. I don't know how many batteries that would be, but 12 hours or so of power. The issue I think would be it would be a very large battery bank, but 12 hours of power that runs that engine block warmer while the engine's off, while you're parked overnight, and you can just use your bank to keep your engine warm. I don't know if it's worth it though, because that kind of system will cost thousands of dollars to even build yourself. If it were even feasible, it would. I mean, the wiring, the inverters, the batteries, it'd be quite expensive, but it will be a very good power bank that you could use for anything else that you need it to power. So sometimes I have these ideas, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But I'd be curious, what would happen if this vehicle had I'd be curious what would happen if this vehicle had the engine block plugged in, because it does have the Pro Power on board. The Pro Power can power the engine block warmer, has enough power to do so. What would happen if you plugged it in while you were parked and if the vehicle had to idle for some reason? I guess one reason could be to power the Pro Power, but the Pro Power uses so much electricity, or the engine block warmer uses so much electricity, and there's not that much power from the Pro Power left over to power something if you use the engine block warmer, because the engine block warmer, according to the Pro Power, sucks up 800 watts. I think it actually draws a different amount than that, but according to the computer on the screen, I think it's a little off though when it tells you how much your Pro Power is drawing. It says that you're drawing 800 watts, and if you plug anything else into the Pro Power, it pops the breaker on the Pro Power. So it defeats the purpose of the Pro Power to run the motor and use the engine block warmer in cold weather if you need to run the motor for the engine block warmer. So you have to high idle the truck if it's cold and you're using the Pro Power, because it's not enough heat to keep the engine happy. So as we get here, we're gonna park, and I want to show you what happens with the temperature when it idles. We're at 187. The engine's just sitting here, it's running. I'm not sure if it's gonna kick into high idle or not. High idle, it's gonna throw off what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is we're gonna lose our temperature quite quickly on our coolant, which is right here, right there. We're gonna lose that temperature quickly, but if it high idles, it's gonna slow it down a little. But even a high idle is still gonna run a little cold. So, looking at what we're doing at idle, these diesels don't make enough heat. We're already down to 185 in just that short period of time. So it's a little bit of delay, but it will get there. But one thing about that whole thing about the Pro Power that I'm saying, if this engine block warmer is powerful enough to just offset this coolant temperature loss at idle, because the whole point is what I mean is, how can that help a vehicle that a diesel? Because idling is not good for a diesel because it's not hot enough for the combustion to be efficient, to be good for the engine. What difference would it make to have that 800 watts of heat being pushed into the motor? Would that make the engine a little bit healthier at idle in cold weather? I'm kind of curious about that. If so, and let's just say you had to use the truck as a power generator for your house. My one friend had his power go out, and he used his truck to power like his refrigerator and stuff. And I thought it was kind of goofy because he has a 2011, and he had that plug that wasn't that good, like this plug. It was maybe 400 watts, and he powered. Allegedly, he powered his refrigerator. I don't know if I buy that, but he powered his refrigerator apparently. And I'm like, dude, that's all fine and dandy, but you really just idled your truck all night for that power inverter that's in your truck, and it's only a 400 watt inverter. That's not that smart. But in our case, we supposedly have 2,000 watts. The thing about it is it doesn't really like perform well at 2,000 watts. I'm not super thrilled about that. And it just seems like with the Pro Power, it's really like a 1,000 watt happy system, not a 2,000 watt. Maybe the 2,000 is a surge. I don't know what they were thinking. Because a good 3,000 watt inverter that I would run, like a Renogy or whatever brand, the good ones are going to be pure sine wave. They're going to be 3,000 watts, but a 6,000 surge. So I think Ford, to be completely honest, I think they take the surge capacities and they freaking advertise it. Where the other inverter companies, they advertise the continuous, and the surge is assumed to be double what the power is. But let's just say you had to run the engine because you have to power something. Well, now if that inverter could just maybe keep the engine going warm, if that engine block warmer. So right now we're dropping temperature. We're down to 181 in just a couple minutes of talking. But if I were to sit here and idle, this temperature will go all the way down to like 100, which is too cold. But if that Pro Power kept this temperature up just by, pumping that 800 watts of heat to the motor, and then the vehicle had a aftermarket inverter, maybe like a 2,000 watt inverter, a good one though, that's a 2,000 watt inverter with a 4,000 watt surge. So I've put a 3,000 watt inverter in the vehicle, in a Super Duty, heavy duty wiring, all this stuff, and it outperformed the Pro Power by a lot. And the motors and stuff ran different. If I run an air compressor or a vacuum or something on this Pro Power, the motor sounds weird. Like it don't want to run right. It sounds all weird. Like the motors sound different. So they say, I've read that these are pure sine wave inverters in these trucks, but they don't have that clean of power, in my opinion, because certain things ran awful with it. Whereas my other inverters that I have installed aftermarket, it ran everything just as if it was plugged into my house. This don't. Like, if something, you plug it in, it might not be happy. I don't know. They claim pure sine wave. I don't know if it is, but anyway, since we got here, we dropped down to 180. It'll continue to drop because idle's not hot enough, but I gotta get inside to work here. But this video's running long. But anyway, should you plug in your truck if you're freezing? I think you should. If you're in freezing temperature, if you're at like 40 degrees, could you? You could. Hey, why not? 40 degrees, 50. Maybe not as necessary, but you still could. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, aside from the power usage, it may not be worth it. But if you don't worry about that, 50 degrees, you get into your car, you plug in your truck at 50 degrees, it's gonna be even warmer than what we started at. It's gonna be. It all depends on how cold it is outside. Like if it's real cold, if it's 0 degrees Fahrenheit, then the engine block warmer, I don't think will keep the engine at 90 plus degrees. But if it's 50 degrees, you plug it in, you probably be at well over 100. You might be at like 150 degrees when you start. But anyway, my name's Sean. This is DS Trucks. See you in the next video. Oh, I gotta get to work. Over and out.